Attorney Dave Zumpano joins us now live in studio to answer your questions about estate planning. And I think that maybe one of the biggest questions is, can my regular lawyer handle something like this? Why is that? I mean, because
I got to be careful on this one, right?
Well, yes. I mean, you are specifically.
Might put myself out of a job.
I don't think so, because
right.
I think you have to be attuned to what's going on with these kind of things.
You know, it's funny. The legal industry is a funny industry because in the old days, it was very common to have a general practitioner. You know, you saw the same lawyer to do your house closing, to do your will, and to do all these different things. But we know life has gotten really complicated.
Oh, specialty everywhere.
I tell you, I have family members call me and say, "Hey, Dave, I got a traffic ticket. Can you help me?" I said, "Well, if you don't mind the risk of ending up in Sing Sing," you know what I mean? Because, you know, and criminal law and, you know, corporate law and, you know, and the thing with lawyers is, you know, we don't have any guidelines for the consumer. You don't know. I mean, I'm a lawyer. I can do a criminal defense. I mean, you wouldn't want me to. I wouldn't even know the first thing to do. But there's nothing that stops me from doing it. I'm licensed to do that. I can do any type of law. And
which
so
is buyer beware then.
Yes, and the challenge is, and I like to use real examples if I can. You know, I met a woman recently, and she says, "Oh, I see you on NewsTalk all the time," and then I was convinced that I have to get my planning done, and I got it done. I said, "Oh, good, were we able to help you?" And she said, "No, I went to my lawyer." And I said, "Okay, how'd that work out for you?" She goes, I got a trust. And then I kind of asked who her lawyer was, and I know the lawyer. And he's not an estate planning attorney. He's very well known in other areas of the law. And so I'm like, wow. And I started to think, well, how do we inform the public? How do they know a Dave Zumpano versus a Bill Smith versus a whoever?
Yes.
And how do they know, you know, we're all lawyers. So I think it really comes down to education. That's why we do the workshops.
Workshops all the time.
And those are free, just so people can see, touch, and feel without having to feel obligated. And I think we like to work with other people's lawyers. If they have a close relationship with with their own attorney, we like to bring them in and we work with them so that we can make sure everything is addressed. You know, that's a tricky one, though.
And before we get to the call, that's a great point in the fact that because things become more and more specific, let's say you just wanted to do something simple. Okay, but the more complicated things are, the more you want that person that knows what they're doing.
I tell you a quick case, and then we'll get to that caller. You know, I had a client call me, and they said, "Well, I already been to see my lawyer, and I have $450,000, and he's going to be able to protect $175, and I'm only going to lose $275," and they thought that was a good thing. And when they met with us, I got to meet with their lawyer, and actually they qualified then. They didn't have to lose anything. So they're looking at, wow, I'm saving $175. They didn't know they could save it all.
Yes.
And so that's what gets really tricky. It makes it hard. That's why I say get educated and then do what your gut tells you, right?
Absolutely. Sounds good, Dave. All right. We have a call, 793 WKTV. Go right ahead. What's your question for Dave Zumpano?
Hi.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Zumpano.
Hi, how are you?
Very good. Now, I'm on SSI, and I was wondering what happens to my earnings if something happens to my rep payee, if they get sick, or if something else happens to them because they're older than me, they're a parent, and what would happen with my earnings there?
Yes. Well, what would happen is SSI is set up, if you've got a rep payee, what that means is they forward the money automatically. It's still in your accounts. Your rep payee has the authority and they can administer it. If something happens to your rep payee, they're just going to shift where that money goes and back into your accounts until a new rep payee can be appointed.
So you don't lose your money?
No, you won't lose your money, but it is very important for you that if anything does happen to your rep payee, that you quickly get in communication with your professional team that's helping you up to this point in time so that you can make sure there's as little gap as possible in between those payments.
Right. We got about a minute left, so we have time for another call. Go right ahead. What's your question this noon?
Hi.
Hi.
I wanted to find out. Hi. I needed to find out. I put my house, after my husband passed away, in my name and my daughter's name. Now, if something happens to me, is she going to be responsible for all my bills, like my credit card bills and stuff like that? Will they take the house because of that? Or?
Well, no. This is a horror story to me. Not that it's bad that you did this, but if something happens to your daughter, I'm more worried about than you. If your daughter gets divorced, if your daughter gets sued, if your daughter goes bankrupt, your house is at risk. So I'm always cautious to tell people, don't go throwing your kids' names on stuff. But here's the thing. If you've left the house and now it's in her name, you presumably had a life estate. She's going to inherit that house automatically when you die, subject to whatever liabilities that can attach to a house. So she won't be responsible for any of your bills, but presumably you won't have any. And at this point, the house is already transferred. So that's already of record. So no, that will not have any consequence to your daughter.
We hope.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
with that part, yes.
There's
but
always exceptions.
We don't want the turn.
It's a crazy thing because you don't know, depending on the type of liability. If the liability is related to the house, then it can affect.
Absolutely.
You know?
That's why he does what he does.
Yeah, well, that's what it is.
All right, good to see you, my
Jay,
friend.
it's always good to be
You
here.
back tonight at 5?
I am back
All
at
right,
5.
watch the Live at 5 News Hour.
Yep.
Have the details with that. We'll wrap up the newscast after the break. Stay with us.